Hey friends, I am Chris Rich. I am the mom of three amazing humans. I've been married for 23 years. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'm a certified life coach. I own my own business where I help my clients to connect with themselves, the people they love, and their heavenly parents. And I am excited to share some thoughts with you today. I want to talk to you today about seeing yourself the way that Christ sees you. So I'm going to break that up into two parts. So, first of all, how does Christ see you? And I want you to think about that for a minute. How does Christ see you? And just let that mull that through your head for a minute. I want you to find out how Christ sees you. And I think a lot of us, we might already know, or we have a good idea. And some of us don't, or some of us have an idea, but it's not true. So I want you to find out how Christ sees you. And I invite you to put on your perspectacles. The eye sees what the brain looks for. So if I am looking for all the reasons that Christ loves me, I'm going to find them. If I'm looking for a contrary, I'm going to find that too. So I invite you to put on your perspectacles to find out how Christ really sees you. My first recommendation is to ask him, to get down on your knees and ask in prayer how your heavenly parents in Christ see you. And ask them to guide you, to show you all the different resources and to open your eyes for the different places where you can find out. And I promise you'll have an amazing experience as you look with those perspectacles. And the first place I want you to put on your perspecacles is in the scriptures. As you are studying the Book of Mormon and reading Come Follow Me, I want you to pay attention with those perspectacles on. How does Christ see you? And as I've been doing that lately, I've had some things pop out to me. And I love, there's a scripture in Jacob where we are invited to feast on his love. And when I think of a feast, that's a lot of food. It's not just a little nibble. There's a lot of love. So I learned in the scriptures that Christ loves me. I also learned that I am his work and his glory, and he wants to help me receive some amazing blessings. That's a pretty cool thing to know. I also learned that he opens doors that I knock on. He wants to answer. He's my advocate. I think of Christ as the most amazing attorney that is going to go and fight for me, to be my mediator and to stand up for me. He's got my back. That's really cool. I learn in the scriptures that as I do my part, that Christ will prosper my works. He will help me in my relationships. He'll help me in my business. He'll help me in my temporal and my spiritual needs. It's pretty amazing. And I also learn in the scriptures, he prays for me. He listens to me and he answers me. Pretty amazing things that I can find as I have those perspectives on. Another place to wear your perspectacles is as you are singing the hymns or reading the beautiful lyrics. Some of the words that pop out to me as I read with my perspectacles on is I hold a place within his heart. How cool is that? I love that thought. He reaches my reaching. He is my kind, wise, heavenly friend. And if I can assume that if he is my friend, he sees me as his friend. That's pretty cool. I'll take all the friends I can get. The hymns have taught me that he delights to bless me. I love that. And I've known for a long time that he leads me, guides me, and walks beside me. Those are beautiful things that we can find out about how Christ sees us. I have had the blessing of working in the Young Women program for a lot of my adult years, and I love the Young Women's theme. I love the whole thing that first sentence really speaks to my heart. And it says, I am a beloved daughter of heavenly parents with a divine nature and eternal destiny. I love that. That tells me a lot of how Christ sees me. He sees me as a beloved daughter. And I love, and I want you to pay attention to this, it says, I am. It doesn't say you can be, or once you lose all this weight, or once you do this, this, and this. It just says, I am. Right this very minute, as you're sitting here with all your imperfections, just like me, you are a beloved daughter of heavenly parents right now. I love that. And I love that they changed the theme a little while ago, that it used to say, we are daughters of our Heavenly Father who loves us. And I love that too. But I know from personal experience, there were times where I would say that, and I would think it's easy to see that you guys are loved, but because of X, Y, and Z, I'm not. And this, the wording on this has changed to right now, I am a beloved daughter. That's how Christ sees you. I love that. A couple other places that I want you to put your perspectacles on. As you read your patriarchal blessing, look for specific words that tell you how Christ sees you. I promise they're in there. When you are receiving a priesthood blessing or being set apart for a calling, pay attention to the wording and with those perspectives. Also, conference talks. What a blessing it is to find answers in conference talks. I know we're just about to have conference in a couple of weeks, and I invite you to put your perspectacles on and notice the messages that are in there. There was a talk by Jeffrey R. Holland that I love, where he says, my brothers and sisters, the first great commandment of all eternity is to love God with all of our heart, might, mind, and strength. That's the first great commandment. But the first great truth of all eternity is that God loves us with all of his heart, might, mind, and strength. That is amazing, to think of a perfect, all-knowing being that knows my imperfections, that he loves me with all his heart, might, mind, and strength. I love that. I have a dear friend that shared with me once that she likes to picture that her heavenly parents have a picture of her on their desk. That is a cool thought that I like to, that brings me a lot of peace. So those are some of the things that we can, when we put our perspectives on, we can know how Christ sees us. That's what he's told us. I also want you to check in with yourself. What is the story you tell yourself about how he sees you? And is it really how he sees you? There is a difference between believing him, believing his words about you, and believing in him. I think it's easy a lot of times to believe in him. Like, yeah, I know that I have a testimony of Christ. It's different to believe him and how he feels about you. And I invite you to find out exactly how he sees you. Beautiful things happen when we ask those questions. I love the times where the nurse handed me my babies for the very first time. And I sat there and just instantly smitten. I was so happy and just so grateful. I had these little perfect humans that were valuable and amazing and just full of worth and potential. And I didn't look at them and think like, if you weren't so chubby, I would love you more. I didn't think that. Or I didn't look at like what they were missing. I never thought like, oh my word, what's your deal? You don't even have any hair or teeth. No, I just looked at them with love, that they were complete and perfect and whole. And I want to offer to you that that's how Christ sees you. And I love what this quote by Hank Smith. He says, you did not come here to earth to earn value by becoming more successful or talented. You brought your value with you. And I just want to offer you that you right now are already perfect, whole, and enough, exactly as you are. And I think it can be tricky that sometimes we confuse worth versus worthiness. And they're two different things. Our worth is our value. It's what we came with. Worthiness is a list of expectations or qualifications that we need to meet in order to do something So maybe it's like to go to the temple. There's certain things I need to do in order to get there. And I might not be able to meet those qualifications, but I want to offer that my worth has never changed, even if I don't meet the qualifications to for a certain thing. So worth and worthiness are not the same thing. And I love what Joy D. Jones says. If we sin, we are less worthy, but we are never worth less. I like to think of it as like if you have $100 bill, a nice, crisp, beautiful $100 bill, the value of that $100 bill is $100. And let's say you drop it in a muddy, nasty puddle on the side of the road. And that, I don't think you're going to be like, oh, never mind, I don't want it anymore. It's still $100. And that, so the value of that never changes. And I want to offer that your value is infinite and it never changes. So the second part of what I want to talk about is, how do you see you? Because we want to see ourselves how Christ sees us. So we want to learn how he really sees us. And then we want to look at how you see you. And we are commanded to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I think so often we miss out one of the most important parts of that commandment, and that is to love ourselves. And I want you to think about it. If you had an empty container, it would be very hard to pour water into a cup. If there's no water in the container, you're going to have a hard time pouring. So if you want to love other people, we want to start with having our container of love full, and that starts with loving ourselves. Love for yourself is the garden in which love for others blooms. So I want you to check in and ask yourself, do you love you? And I think it can depend on the day. One of the things that I like to do with my clients is I have them make a list of things that they love about themselves. And it's surprising how hard it can be sometimes to make that list. But I invite you to make a list, and I'm going to make it a big one. I invite you to make a list of 100 things that you love about you. And this could be things like accomplishments that maybe you've received an award for or a medal. Sometimes that happens, but there's a heck of a lot of things that aren't seen that people don't know. And I want to challenge you to look for those things that you love about you. Because how you think about yourself defines your self-esteem. And what you tell yourself over and over again is what you believe. So I want you to pay attention to that. What are you telling yourself about you? I love this quote by Dieter F. Uchtdorf. And he says, when it comes to hating, gossiping, ignoring, ridiculing, holding grudges, or wanting to cause harm, please apply the following. Stop it. And I know that this was intended as we, like how we treat other people. And yes to all of that. I also want you to turn this on yourself and check in. Do you do any of these things? So I'm going to read it again. When it comes to hating, do you ever hate on yourself? Do you hate your body? Do you hate things about you? Pay attention to that. Gossip. Do you ever gossip to other people about you? Say things that aren't true or think them? Ignoring. Do you ever ignore how you feel and ignore yourself? Ridiculing. How often do we ridicule ourselves and tease or in an unkind way to talk to ourselves? Holding grudges. Are you sometimes having a hard time forgiving yourself? That's holding a grudge against yourself. Or wanting to cause harm? Please apply the following. Stop it. Just as important that we do that for ourselves. And one of the things I want to ask you, I want you to think about, what is your inner dialogue like? How do you think about yourself? How do you talk to yourself? And one of the best things that you can check in with yourself on this, would you talk to your child the way that you talk to yourself? Or would you let someone else talk to your child the way you talk to yourself? It's a good question to check in with yourself. Sometimes we're not even aware of how we talk to ourselves. So I want you to check in with that. And it can be tricky because when I'm talking to myself, I hear Chris Rich in the background. And most of the time, it's a pretty loving conversation. Sometimes it's not. And what if instead of hearing my sweet voice, I heard Vader's voice? And he said, "You lost the keys. You locked them in the car." I would be like, "Hello, don't talk to me like that. I don't need you in here." Or if I heard the Wicked Witch of the West talking to me about, "Oh, my pretty, I see you gained 5 pounds. What is your problem?" I would be like, "Get out of here." But no, we hear our own voice and we don't notice it as much. So I want you to pay attention that, and it can be helpful to even name your inner voice when it's unkind. Are you a mean girl to yourself? Do you have a bully that lives in your brain that beats you up? One of my clients shared this the other day. She calls hers the twisted sister. I love that. Or it could be Helga. Notice when these people in your mind show up and just pay attention to that. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself. Because if you want to see yourself the way Christ sees you, change the way you speak and think about yourself. I promise it'll make a huge difference. Um, and just 2 tips that I learned from a fellow coach. I love these. That when we notice that voice, that unkind, the way we talk to ourselves, there's 2 things we can do. Number one is just a hard pass. No, I will not talk to myself like that anymore. Not going to do that. And just stop the brain bully. The other thing is to think of it like if you were talking to your child with loving engagement, that it could be like, "Honey, I know you've talked to yourself for the past 20 years like that. We're not going to do that anymore because I love you." And to come at it with more love. That can be very helpful. So often we focus on our physical weight and appearance, but I want to offer that if we worked on our mental weight and what we carry around and the thoughts that we're carrying around about ourselves, that would free up a lot for us if we focused on our mental weight. And just 4 things that you can do. Say nice things to yourself on purpose. Stop internal beat downs dead in their tracks. When you notice it, it's that hard pass. Nope, I'm not going to do this anymore. Don't delay feeling proud and worthy and lovable. So often we're like, "Oh, when I lose 5 more pounds, then I'll be proud of myself." No, be proud of yourself now and be on your own team. One thing that I love to do is I like to look into my own beautiful blue eyes, these right here, in the mirror, and point out things that I love about me, things that I'm proud of. I don't know about you guys, but my family is not great about saying, like, "Wow, mom, did you really do another 6 loads of laundry today? These clothes are so clean. Thank you." And they're not really about eating a dinner and saying, "Wow, look at all the fiber and the complex carbs that were in this meal." They don't really point that out. They say thank you and they're very wonderful. And I can validate myself. I can look in the mirror and I can say, "Chris Rich, good job today. Thank you for showing up for your clients." Or it could be something like, "I'm really thankful that you didn't lose your patience on that person today." And it also looks like, "You know what? I know today was a hard day for you and you didn't show up how you normally would. And I love you anyway." And just be there for yourself and make that eye contact with yourself and love you. Plan time to celebrate yourself. Look for the good things you're doing. And I want to point out that when the world was created, at the end of each day, what did they say? They said it was good. They noticed the good things that had happened. I want to leave with you that Christ sees you as a beloved daughter. And he knows our flaws. He knows that we're imperfect and he loves us anyway. And he sees our potential and he loves us. And I want to invite you to look at the way that you see yourself and talk to yourself and align the two together to see yourself the way that Christ sees you. And I just want to offer that as you do this, you will find peace and love, and it'll change your life. I also want to leave with you that if you are struggling with any of this, I would love to set up a free mini session with you and talk about some great tips that can help you to see yourself and to love yourself the way Christ sees you. You can go to my website at chrisrichcoaching.com, and I've got links on there to where you can schedule a free session with me. I've also got a lot of other great tips on there about I've got a blog on there with great tools and tips and videos on there that you can watch to help you to connect with yourself, the people you love, and your heavenly parents. And I would love to help you with that if that's something you could use help for. Have a great day, my friends. Mwah.